Every couple of years, the national media does a story about 1, 2, 5, 10 white people moving to some state like Idaho or North Dakota, where they pronounce their plans to set up an empire of white supremacy. It becomes a national news story, and everybody writes about it, saying how awful it is, how these people are a bunch of hicks, and they're Nazis, and they're this, and they're that. And then nothing happens, and everybody goes away for a couple of years. Well, everybody's back this year, because I think where are they, in North Dakota? Yeah. A couple of a guy in North Dakota, he wants some white people to move to his little town in North Dakota so they can establish some kind of white supremacy Valhalla for the 5 or 6 people who are going to move there. Most white people in this country are not really into identity politics like that. They look at that and they go, no, I'm not going to glorify that. I'm not going to do a TV show about it, saying how fantastic it is that these white people are trying to restore some white heritage. We're not going to, invite them on our talk shows. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. We're just going to put them aside and make fun of them. That's what is happening to these people in North Dakota. Everybody knows on this channel, we don't do hypotheticals because there are so many facts out there. Why do we do hypotheticals? They're very unpersuasive. It's very unpersuasive to talk about things that don't really exist except in your mind. But what if we did have a similar situation to North Dakota? What if there is a place in this country set up specifically for black people, by black people? Well, of course, I'm talking about Jackson, Mississippi, where a bunch of black separatists, proud and open black separatists, won election to the mayor and city council there about 5 years ago. The mayor died. Now the mayor's son took over. Nothing really changed. Jackson, Mississippi, that's where the city councilman goes, yeah, we want, that's where the people were the black people who lived in Jackson would go outside of Jackson, commit crimes, run back to Jackson. The cops would chase them, and the city councilman in Jackson said, we do not want cops chasing black people into Jackson. And if you come in here, we are going to throw rocks and bricks and bottles at you. But it's not just Jackson, Mississippi. No, this ridiculous racial identity politics, of course, it's only really practiced by one group in this country. Oh yeah, and by the way, marching in a Italian Day, Columbus Day parade once a year and waving one of those tri-colored flags, that's pretty much like the extent of racial identity politics for most white people in this country. But why don't we move over to Philadelphia? They're not only practicing racial identity politics at a chain of bed and breakfasts, they're doing it proudly. They're doing it openly. They're bragging about it. It's funny, they brag about it. You're going to see this story in a minute. They brag about it at the exact same time they try to pretend it's not a black thing. So on one hand, they're going, yeah, it's a black thing. We're really all fired up about that. And on the other hand, we go, well, we're not trying to, we're still trying to welcome other cultures. And so here's the story from the Philadelphia Daily News /Inquirer. The Aquaba Philadelphia, the bed and breakfast that speaks to black people. It just opened in West Philadelphia. And this woman used to be an editor at Essence magazine. And it speaks directly to the sensibilities of African Americans without excluding folks of other cultures. Yeah, that's probably what those guys up in North Dakota say. Say, we just want to buy some lots of property here. We're not hating on anybody. Just want to be with white people. That's what these guys are saying about black people, word for word. One group gets away with it, one does not. Before we read this article in the paper, which is so full of these crazy contradictions that we see as a matter of course when we talk about racial identity politics, black racial identity politics. Why don't we get started on this Philadelphia Inquirer story? We'll do just a real quick version of it. You can check it out yourself if you like. But it's really weird. They're talking about how when this woman bought this property in West Philadelphia, first thing she did was she took down all the pictures of all the white people. And she replaced them with pictures of black people. Then she took down all the china, the classic Philadelphia, china you see in these places, and she replaced them with plates with geometric patterns, because apparently that's a black thing. But what's weird is, just a couple weeks ago in the Philadelphia paper, they ran a story about a black chick who liked this old china. Yeah, the old china they used to use in old houses without geometric shapes on it. Let me see. This woman and her husband have amassed quite the collection of bed and breakfasts, popular in travel circles, that speak directly to the sensibilities of African Americans without excluding folks of other cultures. This doesn't mean it's a bed and breakfast that caters to just black people. Lie. But it does mean black people feel welcome, and that's important when a place is billed as a home away from home. Too often, African Americans don't feel like we belong, and when we do show up, people think we are the help. Constant victimization. Relentless victimization. But this whole idea of relentless white racism and relentless black victimization, this never happens at Aquaba. For every Time or Fortune magazine on a Aquaba coffee table, there is an Ebony or Essence. One isn't hard-pressed to find books by black authors in the library, or jazz or R&B mixed to easy listening selections. And there is a good chance the executive chef might serve grits in addition to oatmeal at breakfast. And just a second ago, the article talked about African American sensibilities and how this bed and breakfast is tailored to that. Would somebody please tell me what that means? What does it mean? Just tell me. That's all. Just tell me. Tell me what African American sensibilities are. Go ahead. I dare you. One of the things about this new place, one of their new places used to be a home for the people who owned Woolworths. That makes it extra special for the fellas and the lovely ladies, because Woolworths used to have, just like everybody else, has segregated lunch counters, and now they're celebrating a different kind of segregation. They're at this new place that used to belong to the Woolworth family. So the article goes on to talk about all the great things that this bed and breakfast, quote, she did promise me the Aquaba Philadelphia will have a theme rooted in our city's rich African American history. Okay. Whatever. We talked about how back in the 40s and 50s, black people used to go to hotels all the time without any trouble. These days, bed and breakfasts serve as soft places to land in a travel landscape dominated by impersonal chain hotels and Airbnbs, where convenience almost always trumps culture. Yes, this experience is just so different, she said about staying at a black-owned bed and breakfast. The food is tailored to an African-American palate. Okay, full stop. What does that mean? What is an African American palate? Go ahead, tell me. I think I might have an idea of it because we did a story a few months ago when I was still on YouTube about in Atlanta. A guy wrote an article for Atlanta Magazine, said, why are there chicken bones everywhere in Atlanta? Why? Why is that? So I did a story kind of making fun of it, and I included in that all the violence that happens at fried chicken joints where black people frequent. YouTube thought that was a very bad thing to do. So maybe the folks at YouTube, since they're a lot smarter than we are, they know a lot more about African American sensibilities than we do. Can you tell me what an African American palate is? Get back to the story. Even sitting around in the evening with wine on the wind down hour, it's an inclusive experience. It's nice to see myself, even if it's something as simple as seeing a black family in a picture and a beach scene. Does that seem weird to you? Does that seem full of vitriol and hatred and resentment to you? Does it seem like a healthy thing to do when you walk into a hotel to tell the hotel to get on the phone to the front desk and say, excuse me, these pictures do not fit my racial sensibilities? Yeah, there are pictures of people in other races in my hotel room or my B&B or my Airbnb. Could you please come and remove them? Oh yeah, and the dinnerware in the hotel has all these geometric patterns on it. That doesn't fit my racial sensibilities either. Could you remove them as well and replace that with classic china? One of our more prescient, pointed, careful viewers is a fellow named True to Roof with some very deep Philadelphia roots. So True to Roof still remembers what happened. It seemed like a long time ago. Was it 2 months ago? A couple of black people walked into Starbucks, didn't buy anything, refused to buy something, asked to use the bathroom. They said no. They asked them to leave 3 times. Politely, they said no. The cops came in, asked them to leave 3 times. They said no. They finally put them in cuffs and took them out. All because these guys were just hanging out in this restaurant, Starbucks, without buying anything. So when True to Roof saw this article and brought it to my attention, his first and only question was, if a white person goes into this place and sits down and starts using the ketchup and the honey and the chairs and the porches and the phones without paying for it and refusing to leave, I mean, is that a crime? What do you think the owners of this place would do if True to Roof showed up and just sat down at their dining table and decided he didn't really want to buy anything, he just wanted to enjoy a little bit of the atmosphere? Something tells me the owners of that establishment, they would not care for that kind of treatment from True to Roof, since they would probably remind him they're trying to make a buck here. And that's not against the law in this country, even if it does make a few black kids angry.